The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences. I know we're usually talking about kids' cartoons and stuff, but there's going to be naughty language. Anyway, listener discretion is advised.
La 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 la. Turn the sun down.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, your weekly home for animation reviews and discussions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. I'm JD, and this is my freaking friend Dustin.
Hi, everybody! It's a blast to be here with you.
I'm sorry for my horrible Daria impression, everybody. But yeah.
Was that not Daria I was talking to?
No, I'm not.
I was gonna say, hey Daria, do me a favor and get JD on, will you? We got a podcast to do here.
I know, right? So yeah, this is the Ink and Paint Club podcast, and Dustin is back again this week to help me out.
Twice in a row, one more, and I'll get a prize.
Yeah, you get a free scoop of ice cream.
Sweet.
But yeah, we're going to be wrapping up our summer camp month this week, and to do it, I figure we're going to be talking about, one of Dustin and I's favorite television animatory programs. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about Daria.
The Head.
Yes, The Head.
The Head beach blanket summer?
Sure.
The Head special?
Oh.
I mean, I guess we could talk about Daria.
Yeah, I guess. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the first Daria TV movie titled Is It Fall Yet?, which covers a lot of summertime shenanigans for the characters of Daria.
Ironically, no, it is not fall yet. It is still the middle of summer.
Yeah, it's ironic or something, and someone says it in the movie.
He does.
He says the thing.
I cheered so loudly when he said it.
He said the thing.
I was like, okay, well, no need to watch the rest of this.
Well, that's the roll credits. So yeah, we did an episode on just general Daria a while back, which, Justin, you were there for that.
I sure was.
A good time. So go listen to that, too.
I remember it like it were yesterday. Yesterday.
Yeah, if I had an editor, I would tell him to put clips of that whole episode in, but, I'm the editor and I'm lazy.
Everyone just after I said that, go back and listen to it.
There you go. You'll get the full experience that way. So we just got finished rewatching this, and yeah, it's pretty much as good as I remember it being. I mean, it's like a long Daria episode. It's not like you're breaking any new ground in terms of story. It just kind of continues off from where the third season left off, and just kind of continues there for about an hour.
Fourth season, JD.
Was it the fourth season?
Yeah, it was between season 4 and season 5.
Ah, okay. JK, what if...
Yeah, don't worry, we got it all figured out. Because at the end of season 3 is when Jane met Tom. And then over the fourth season is when all the Tom stuff was kind of coming to a head.
So, yeah, if you're familiar with Daria, just to give a little context here, so this movie pretty much picks up right at the end of season 4, where Daria and Jane kind of had a falling out because Daria ended up kissing the embodiment of a wet blanket, Tom.
No one likes Tom.
I don't like Tom.
No one did. I don't hate Tom. I mean, he doesn't get me angry, but he's just a boring character.
That's his problem. He's a boring character.
They bring in Tom, but you don't care about Tom. You care about what's going on with Jane and Daria. Tom is literally just what is happening between them.
Pretty much. So yeah, this movie pretty much picks up right after that. I guess Daria and Tom have started dating for a couple of weeks.
Well, let's back up a little bit, JD. Let's talk about the episode that happened right before it. Die, Die, My Darling. I mean, not to
Okay.
go into too much detail, but we did just watch that one too, and it kind of sets up the events of this one,
Right.
where
Yeah.
Jane asks Daria to dye her hair. Daria does a shitty job. But Jane was kind of using it as an excuse to get mad at Daria,
Yeah.
because she could kind of feel what was going on between her and Tom, what was going on between Daria and Tom.
Mm-hmm.
So here's
Yeah.
the thing. I always thought this area of the series is when it got like really uncomfortable and awkward, and it does, but at the time I didn't like that. Here I do like it. I like that it's kind of mixing things up a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like we were saying, I don't much care for Tom, but in the episode that we watched and the movie that we watched here, I like that Tom's more used as what's the word I want to use here?
A plot
he's just
device?
Yeah, he's kind of like a plot device. He's a catalyst for putting Jane and Daria in a different situation because of what's going on between the three of them.
Yeah, that's about all he's good for.
Yeah, he's used to further the plot, further the development of someone else rather than himself.
Yeah, sorry to any diehard Tom Sloan fans out there.
Oh my god. So yeah,
I don't want to step on any toes, but
step on all the toes.
maybe stop listening to this podcast now if you're a huge Tom fan.
No, don't go. We need the listeners. So yeah, that all happens, and at the end of that episode, Daria and Tom end up making out a little bit. And that kind of sets a rift between our two protagonist friends. And that's where this movie pretty much picks up.
Yeah.
I kind of like this movie because it does show Daria and Jane having their little spat and stuff, but I like that it kind of breaks up that whole very kind of serious drama stuff with like these little silly stories of what everyone else in the main cast is doing throughout the summer.
Yeah, you get Mr. DiMartino at the counselor camp.
Yeah, you get why am I blanking? What's the other teacher's name? I'm blanking. Mr. O'Neill.
Mr. O'Neill, that's it. I
Yeah,
always
Mr.
forget his name.
Yeah, Mr. O'Neill, Mr. Martino, and Daria are working at a day camp for children. And it reinforces how much I love Mr. DiMartino and how he's just like 2 seconds away from stroking out.
Yeah, neither Daria nor Mr. DiMartino are there by choice.
No, yeah.
Mr. DiMartino kind of. He wanted to kind of
he wants to
his passion for teaching.
Yeah, because at the beginning of the movie, like he's just kind of losing it because it's obvious that a lot of his students didn't learn anything over the year. So he's like, why am I bothering to be a teacher anymore? So he wants to rekindle that passion. And he does in a strange way.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
He's earned it.
But then you get this little silly side story of Kevin and Brittany are lifeguards, and that's pretty much the joke.
Yeah, they don't really focus on it too much, which is good since it's not the main focus of the story, but it's there enough to kind of keep things a little light.
Yeah, it cuts to it enough, and it's like, yes, obviously they're bad at it, and who would entrust lives to these people? Then there's like the story between Mack and Jodi, which I felt was kind of unnecessary because it's like it was trying to like have this little side story of them working shitty summer jobs too, and it kind of taking a toll on their relationship. And by the end of it, they're fine, I guess, but I didn't think it really added anything.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate it.
No, it was fine.
Yeah, but it didn't really add much to the overall plot. It did tie together into Kevin and Brittany's story.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, because Mack ends up quitting his job at the end, and Kevin and Brittany take over and are equally as bad at that job too.
All wackiness ensues.
And then the other, well, I guess we'll get through the main stories because there's a lot of different stories going along.
Not quite as much as Tiny Toon Adventures: How I Spent My Summer Vacation.
Ah, damn, we should have reviewed that this month.
We should have. That's a good movie. Like Tiny
kicking
Toons is
myself
pretty
now.
Tiny Toons is pretty hit and miss, but that movie still holds up.
Well, maybe we'll do this again next year.
Yeah.
But there's
So let's back up a little bit. So
Okay.
The main story of this movie is the
Mhm.
rift between Daria and Jane.
Mhm.
So this is after Jane and Tom had broken up. This is after Tom and Daria have hooked up. So
Right.
that's kind of making things awkward between Daria and Jane. Jane said she was cool with it, but she's not really all that cool with it, is she, JD?
Well, no, because that's how teenagers work. They
Yeah,
say
exactly.
they don't say what they mean.
Boy, their lives sure are complicated.
I remember being 16. It was awful.
I remember being 16. Actually, I don't really remember that much. It's pretty uneventful.
Yeah. High
But,
school sucked.
So,
Anyway.
so that's the main story with Daria and Jane. So Daria's feeling guilty about it. Jane is still mad at her for it, but Jane's going to an art camp for the summer, so she's not going to be seeing Daria. Daria is
super-
upset about that because she definitely still feels that rift, even though Jane is saying she's okay with it.
She's
But
very
she's
much
obviously
not.
not. But
So Jane goes off to art camp, a super pretentious art camp.
yeah,
Or colony, or whatever the hell they call it.
an art colony.
An art colony. It's
But-
basically a bunch of hippies trying to sound self-important.
Yeah, telling Jane, aren't you in high school? How much about art could you possibly know? We know
Well,
more because we're
actually-
so experienced.
No one had a fedora or scarf.
That's true.
Of course, this was like 2000, so I mean, maybe that
Yeah, I think
trend
this was
hadn't-
made in 2001, I want to say, because the
Something
show
like that.
ended in 2002, I think.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
But, so, I would say the big story after the Daria and Jane story is Quinn's story.
Yeah, so Quinn, they do like a practice SAT, and she doesn't really get the. She gets a decent score, but she ends up getting pretty similar scores as her friends, who she's kind of at a turning point where she's like, maybe my friends aren't the brightest group of people, and maybe I should be doing better than them.
Yeah.
So she ends up getting a tutor played by MTV guy Carson Daly.
From The Daily Show. Remember that one, everybody? Remember the 90s?
Not that Daily Show.
Oh, wait, no, that's not what I meant. Total Request Live.
Yeah, he was on TRL.
Sorry, you said Carson Daly, and it threw me off my game. I'm such a... Edit this out! I don't want to look like a fool.
Oh.
Nobody listened to this.
It was weird because I kind of forgot that he was in this, and then like as soon as his character showed up, I said to everybody, "It's like, does this character look like more over designed than everybody else?" And it's like, oh, because they're trying to draw Carson Daly.
I see. If you didn't say anything, I wouldn't have known. I completely forgot.
It was just bugging me because like everyone else has a pretty simple design, and just like
Mhm.
his like the way they drew his hair and stuff. It's like he just seems too detailed.
Yeah, I just completely forgot that Carson Daly was even a person.
I mean, I'm pretty sure most of the world has.
Yeah. I mean, nothing against Carson Daly. I'm sure he's
No.
a fine guy, unless he's been in some sort of trouble I don't know about.
I just haven't kept up with him since the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters is in this too.
Is he? Who did he play?
He's the pretentious art guy.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. My
Yeah.
mom and dad love the Foo Fighters.
I like the Foo Fighters on occasion.
Hey, mom and dad, this one's for you. You guys like the Foo Fighters, right? You guys know what a Dave Grohl is?
The Dave Grohl.
See, our worlds are connected in some way.
Oh man. But yeah.
This-
So the movie just kind of goes back and forth between, Jane at camp and Daria at camp, and doing things with Tom, and it kind of shows like Daria with Tom and how their relationship is going, and I gotta say, watching their relationship is really kind of painful to watch, because like I was saying in the chat that I feel like dating Daria would just be exhausting.
Here's the thing, though. I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually a point I wanted to make in the chat, but I wanted to save it for the podcast.
Okay.
It could be exhausting, but I feel like it's not exactly a comparable situation. That whole situation is already pretty weird and intense and screwing things up in her life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, dating her best friend's boyfriend. I feel like if she were dating any other guy, like, they would still have to put up with her snarkiness, but
yeah,
I feel like it wouldn't be as exhausting. I feel like she's just really resistant to the whole idea because of what it represents, more so than it just being her dating a guy.
I guess so.
I'm not saying if you were to date her it would be easy. I mean, but I feel like it's also not really a normal situation.
Oh, for sure. We were just watching the scene of like when Tom and Daria are at like that fancy club eating dinner and stuff, and just like they're looking around and Daria's just like throwing one snarky comment after another, and Tom just kind of rolls with it, and just like, what kind of person just like would like enjoys that kind of company?
I mean, it seemed like Tom did. Remember, Tom says he doesn't even like going to these things, so he was fine with making fun of it. It's just when Daria started getting a little I guess personally aggressive towards him about it.
Right.
Like, kind of attacking him a little for it is when he started being like, "Whoa, hey, Daria, let's back up a little bit," if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, because she starts going off on him about like how, you know, snobby his family kind of is, and like how they kind of come off as elitist and stuff, and it just kind of comes off as her trying to find a way to
make it not work. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like I said, I feel like it's because it's Tom that she's like this, not just like if it were anyone else, she would still make her little snarky comments, but she wouldn't be so offensive about it. Yeah,
that whole and we were talking about it during the film. I mean, it's kind of nice seeing Daria kind of put in this very awkward position where, because Daria is, you know, known for not emoting too much, but I mean, through this entire movie and even the episode before this that we were watching, you can just kind of see how like bad she feels about, you know, obviously kind of breaking Tom and Jane apart, and now that she's dating Tom, it's like really messing with her, and you know, I think they do a good job of like having her show that, but still kind of keep her in character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, those are actually my favorite parts of the whole series, is when it shows Daria in a more vulnerable spot, I guess. Like when it shows there's more to her than just making fun of people and being monotone. Because, like, you know, there's a few times in the actual series where they're showing Daria from a different point of view, like the one where she gets contacts and she's kind of debating whether or not that goes against her own morals. It's nice to see Daria a little more humbled. It's like I was saying in the episode before the movie where she's dyeing Jane's hair. I really like how they play their dialogue off. Like, the way Jane's speaking to Daria, the things she's saying, you can tell there's something that's bugging her. And she's definitely not talking like she normally does. And with Daria, when she's dyeing her hair, when she and Jane are kind of bickering back and forth, Daria's a little more defensive about it. But once Jane, like after she fucks up her hair job, and Jane starts yelling at her and like attacking her over it, that's when Daria starts like pleading with her to let her fix it. She gets like really apologetic about it.
Yeah,
and I like that a lot. I
legitimately started feeling bad about that, and was like, God, she, like, I'm sure she didn't mean it, and oh, she like feels terrible about it.
Yeah, I never really thought about it when I watched it before, but they do a good job of capturing like how these characters would act in this awkward, different sort of situation, rather than just keeping them the way, like keeping them perfectly in character the whole time, like that. It lets them be more three-dimensional.
And honestly, I think, I mean, this movie really does kind of put, you know, a lot of these main characters into, you know, that more three-dimensional personality-wise. Because obviously you got the whole thing with, you know, Daria and Jane. Like, Jane goes off to art camp to kind of just run away from the problem, essentially. But I also like that this movie is a turning point for Quinn, because basically up until this point Quinn has just been you know, this airhead, fashion obsessed girl, just like her friends are. But this kind of shows that, like, oh, she does have kind of ambitions to do better in life, and she doesn't want to, she wants to be a person with substance, and kind of rounding out her personality like that. It was nice to see, and I like that. I think they, you know, carry that towards the to the end of the show.
Yeah, I think it would have been really easy for them to just kind of leave Quinn how she is. Like, throughout the whole series, she's kind of more of an, I don't want to say antagonist, but she was always kind of at odds with Daria. Like, they did play her as very one-dimensional. But I really like that they started developing her with this. And they kind of did before in the show, but never really that much. This was kind of the big turning point for her, where they show that Quinn does want to have... She wants to have more to show for herself than the fashion club.
Or, you know, her looks or whatever.
Yeah. Her looks or whatever.
Whatever. This reminds me, I hate Sandy so much.
Gee.
She's literally the worst.
What are you talking about? She's everyone's favorite ray of sunshine.
I want to punch her in the face.
Wow. Just come right out and say it, why don't you?
I did it.
Gee, JD, if you have something to say, why not just say it instead of keeping it bottled up and saying it behind her back?
That was beautiful.
Thank you. I've been working on my Sandy impression.
Yeah.
I hope I can do the role of Sandy in the new Daria reboot they're doing.
Okay, then.
Aren't you looking forward to it?
Not particularly, no, but so I guess another thing that obviously I don't know how prevalent this was with MTV back in the day to kind of show this kind of situation, but during Jane's part of the story, she kind of makes a friend at art camp, and it turns out that this girl is very much a bisexual and kind of comes on to Jane, and it was very interesting to see, like, someone coming on to her and Jane just being like flat out like no, and I'm not into that, and you know.
But it does get her kind of. I feel like what they were going for was it did kind of get her thinking about it, like kind of, like she was like not thinking like she might be into it, but kind of more like, because the other girl said she never makes a mistake about that sort of thing. So Jane, I feel like Jane was kind of like, geez, maybe there's something about me I don't quite realize, but no.
Maybe.
She was like, I guess I made a mistake that one time.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting. I mean, I know the show wasn't for kids or anything. It was very much for like teenagers and adults, but just kind of show that kind of situation where, you know, someone, you know, is coming on to you and you're just very much not into it, and you know her friend was getting really persistent about it, like really pushy about it. It's like, you know, how do you know you like it? You don't like it if you haven't tried it, or
hey,
like,
don't knock it till you try it. Am I right?
Pretty much, yeah. And you know how kind of that freaks her out a little bit until Jane leaves. I don't know. It was just a very interesting kind of scenario to put her in.
It's funny, what you just said kind of makes me realize there really aren't a whole lot of teen-centered cartoons these days. It's usually, you know, for all audiences, like, aim more towards kids, or an adult show like Family Guy.
Yeah.
I
that
guess
kinda makes
there.
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I guess there are shows like The Simpsons or Bob's Burgers where they're not necessarily like vulgar, but I'd consider them more aimed at adults, I guess. But shows like Daria or even like Beavis and Butthead were aimed more at teens than adults, and there really aren't a whole lot of shows like that these days.
Yeah, not really.
I guess it's since MTV doesn't do cartoons anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, Cartoon Network's kind of done stuff like that. Like, we were talking about Total Drama last week, and I feel like that was more of a teen-centric show.
Oh,
and
that doesn't count. They censored it to be for little 2-year-old children to watch.
Well, I'm meaning in Canada, it was, uncensored and to this point where I feel like it was more teen-centered.
Yeah, or originally it was meant to be anyway.
Right. But you're right. I think since MTV's kind of dropped their animation division, more teen-centric animation's kind of gone away. It's more, and you're right, it's more of the extremes of the spectrum, where it's either you get programming for kids or you get programs for adults, but you don't kind of get any of that middle ground anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't really bother me that much since I'm an adult, and it's not like I need shows aimed at teens. But I mean, back in the day, MTV had so many great shows. I think that's the thing. Even if it's aimed at teen, no matter who it's aimed at, everyone can relate to it. Yeah,
and you've got, not just because Daria is the main character and she's a teenager. I mean, there's plenty of other characters in it that people of all ages can relate to.
I mean, adults were teenagers once, and kids will be teenagers. I mean, I remember watching Daria when I was a child. I think it premiered in '97. I would have been 9 at the time. So
yeah,
I still watched it.
I had no idea what Daria was until college, and it was just like on Teen Nick at midnight. I think it was when the DVD was coming out.
Yeah,
that's when I found it.
But let's see, what other things happened in the movie? Oh, at the summer camp Daria's working at. So her mom makes her work at a
day camp,
Mr. O'Neill's day camp, since she didn't have a job for the summer. And there's this little kid named Link, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Link from Legend of Zelda. Am I right, gamers out there? You get that reference.
I get it.
But he's just kind of this little shithead kid who's kind of like Daria. He's very withdrawn, very moody and snarky. He has a good reason for it. He's not having the best home life, but he's not really opening up to anybody.
Right. And I kind of like this whole little subplot with Daria trying to reach out to this kid and kind of get him to come out of his shell a little bit. And I like that it kind of parallels her own kind of relationship with Tom, because basically, this kid is kind of closed off and doesn't want to, share with people around him, whereas Daria's kind of closed off to Tom and not wanting to really let herself be vulnerable and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so it's a nice little parallel story going along.
Yeah, and like even Daria's saying to him that she knows someone who's kind of like that.
Yeah,
she doesn't use names, but I really like when they show Daria kind of reflecting on herself a little. Like I said earlier, I really like that. I like when they show the different sides of her, because like I said before, I used to think this whole era of the show, like these few episodes in this special, were really awkward and uncomfortable. But I like that it kind of forces the characters to show those different sides of themselves.
Right.
Like, Daria's still kind of snarky in this, but you get to see her, like, feeling bad about things.
Yeah, she's becoming a little more self-aware.
In the first
about-
3 seasons, they kept it very, there was some reflecting, like I said. Like, there's the misery chick where Daria says she doesn't like being known as that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is really where they start really opening up who Daria is, having her reflect on what's going on. And that's cool. I love when those are my favorite parts of the show. I feel like.
Yeah, and I think this movie kind of does a good job of like setting all that up, where a lot of the character dynamics are going to be changing going forward, and I think by the end of it they kind of put everyone in a pretty good place to continue on to the next season and kind of continue to grow and change.
Yeah, it really does kind of give everyone a pseudo happy ending. Like, it's not the end of the show, but it is kind of all's well that ends well for everybody.
It kind of just kind of puts the characters in an optimistic place that going into the next season that things won't be so bad, I guess.
Yeah, honestly, it's been so long since I've seen that last season. I need to watch it again. I don't really remember much of what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's kind of gearing up towards the big finale movie. Daria's kind of looking into getting into colleges. Quinn's kind of branching out a little more.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while. I'll need to rewatch that season. But
yeah,
it's weird to think about how Daria only lasted 5 seasons.
5 seasons and 2 movies.
That's so crazy to think about in this day and age, when if a show is popular, it just goes on forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
Because Daria was... I'm pretty sure Daria was pretty popular at the time.
It was one of MTV's biggest hits.
Yeah, it wasn't like Beavis and Butthead phenomenon big.
No.
It was still pretty good for what it was.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's getting t-shirts at stores and stuff. It's hit that nostalgic peak.
I've got a Daria t-shirt.
I don't, but I wouldn't be opposed to it.
I don't know where I found it, but I found a shirt that basically just has the Six Set World logo on it.
That's a good one. That's a good
I like
idea
it.
for a
It's
shirt.
like, it's just subtle enough that it's not in your face, and I enjoy when people actually know what it is when I go out.
You'll be stopped on the street and someone will say, "Hey, wicked shirt."
That was like a lot of my college, actually. As I just have a random t-shirt and everyone would be like, "Hey, that's a cool shirt." I'm like, thanks.
Awesome shirt, man.
My collection of
remember that
nerd shirts has not been a waste. So yeah, Dustin, is there anything else you want to talk about this movie?
I feel like there is. I kind of feel like we're forgetting something about it, I wanted to say. I really like... So, in this movie, Quinn is being tutored by this guy, Carson Daly. Not the Carson Daly, but a
man who looks and sounds like Carson Daly.
Yeah. So, she's being tutored by him, and she kind of starts developing a little crushy crush on him. Ooh. And I feel like that's another good, because before then Quinn was just always about dating, the cute guys, the football players.
Mm-hmm.
But now she's kind of falling for a guy who's kind of like the complete opposite of what she normally goes for. Somebody who's smart, heaven forbid.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes hand in hand with her trying to find her own personal depth, is that she's starting to look for other people with depth to them. To be around. And I mean, it's nice to see kind of this one-dimensional character kind of learning about their own faults and like actively trying to fix them.
Yeah. But the reason I brought it up was, so he rejects her.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's, in his eyes, she's still pretty shallow and just not his type. But so that leaves her feeling shitty. She goes to talk to Daria about it, and I really like this scene with Daria and Quinn talking together, since in the show they're usually, like I said, like complete opposites. making jokes at each other's expense, just don't really get each other. But then you get this one scene of Daria giving Quinn, like really good advice, feeling bad for her, and I like that. I like this is probably one of the few times they actually show that, maybe they don't hate each other as much as they let on.
Yeah, and I mean that's family. I mean, you make fun of each other, you kind of poke fun, but deep down you care about each other, and I genuinely do enjoy these moments where Daria and her family can have a real conversation, because you're right, I really do like that whole scene where the sisters are kind of like, Daria's really trying to help her sister out and give her advice and kind of give sympathy for her.
Yeah, and not just that, but also when Daria's talking to her mom too. In the show, Daria and her family are also kind of on separate wavelengths. So it's really nice to show when they can actually connect together, especially since Daria is such a hard nut to crack, I guess.
Right.
She
And
really doesn't come out of her shell super often.
Yeah, and I like that she has a relationship with her mom, and like since the whole Tom thing's going on, she keeps trying to talk to her about it. And I like when they do finally sit down and talk about it. Her mom's just kind of really very practical about it, and is like, it sucks now, but I don't know how exactly, but things will
work out in the end.
Yeah, pretty much. But she's just being very honest with her, and I like that Daria feels like she can talk to her mom about this kind of stuff, and they kind of have like a real conversation with her about it, and that's kind of nice to see in this kind of family dynamic.
Yeah. One thing I also liked about it was throughout this whole movie, Daria's mom is very busy with work. She's like, working 18-hour days, and I'm busy. Throughout the whole movie. But then at the end, when Daria shows up to talk to her, she just drops all of it and goes out with her to talk about it.
Yep.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of see Daria's parents as like, her mom is very, very busy, consumed with her work, and their dad's kind of an idiot. But I do like any opportunity that her parents get to show that, they're, very good parents for the most part, and they do care. They would drop everything to help their kid out, and her mom literally does. So
yeah,
that's really nice. Good job, everybody.
And Daria and Jane reconcile, they become friends again, everything's okay. Daria hooks up with Tom again for some reason.
Yeah. And I like how even though Daria and Jane become friends, it's still kind of awkward. They're still like not on like 100% good terms at the end of it, but they're like getting there still.
Yeah.
Like they're pretty much there, but they're still a little they still got a little ways to go.
Yeah, like they've made up, they've understood the situation. They're friends again, but it still feels like Daria kind of feels like she's still walking on eggshells. But I think by the first episode of the next season, it's pretty ironed over.
Yeah.
Because I think the first episode of season 5 is the soda one, the product placement one at the school.
Right.
So by that point, the Daria, Jane, Tom thing is just done, and then it's just the Daria and Tom thing.
Yeah.
But, whatever. I guess if we have to have Tom here.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they develop him more. Maybe in that last season they give him a little more to do. Like I said, it's been a while since I've watched those last few episodes.
Yeah, I need to rewatch it too. But yeah, like I was saying, I think this movie kind of just ends putting everyone in a good place to start the new season, and
Quinn's not afraid to show off what she's learned, even at the detriment of the fashion club.
Fuck them.
Yeah, whatever. Who even cares about scrunchies and tube tops?
Not me,
Not me, no sir.
because
I
I've
got more
depth.
important things to worry about. Like talking about cartoons on the internet.
On the internets. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think that's about all I've got to say. It's a very good movie. I think it handles drama well. It handles comedy well.
Mhm.
It has characters you care about.
I can't recommend watching this without pretty much watching all of Daria up to that point, but
Yeah, this is definitely a very continuity based movie.
yeah, you can't just jump into this movie and have any idea what's going on.
Yeah, I mean
it's like a double length Daria episode, so
it's like a triple length Daria episode because usually, I mean, without commercials, episodes are usually like
No.
22 minutes. This
Yeah,
one
I
came
guess
out
you're
to
right.
about an hour and 8 minutes, I think.
yeah, it's a little over an hour altogether.
But
But yeah.
yeah, it's very good. I
Very good.
enjoy it.
Way to go, guys. I don't know.
Way to
I
go,
forget who made.
people who worked on Daria.
Yes, you made a good. You done good.
Yeah.
Like 15 years ago.
Well, yeah.
But yeah.
I
So-
think that's all we got to say about Daria Is It Fall Yet, but I think we've said enough. I mean, 20 minutes more and we'd be talking just as long as the movie is, so
Yeah, can't have that.
can't be
But,
having any of that.
Yeah. Well, I guess then that does it for summer camp month around here. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I've
I
been
hope
like
you guys are ready to go back to school.
my wife has to go back to school like 2 weeks from now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, she's not happy about it. But yeah, I've been kind of liking doing these theme month things because we did one for the Hanna-Barbera wrestling movies a couple months ago.
I wish I was there for that, but I was a little busy at the time. But those would have
Yeah.
been very fun to talk about.
Yeah.
I have a thing about Hanna-Barbera. They're not good, but I love talking about them.
Yeah. So if you listeners have any ideas for theme months that we could do in the future, let us know because I enjoy doing them and we've got a lot of empty space to fill
Yeah,
in the next couple of
if
weeks.
any of the
so.
4 of you listening to this have any suggestions, send them our way.
Hey, we've got almost 200 subscribers now.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I was not paying attention to the subscribers.
It's okay. Yeah. Well, Dustin, thank you for helping me out for these past 2 weeks. And,
You know what? You're welcome. And hey, you know what? You don't even have to pay me for it. I'll do these
Yeah.
episodes for free.
thanks. That saves me a lot of headache.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Oh, good. And thank you all for listening. And we will be hopefully get back on schedule because I know these episodes have been coming out kind of late. But hopefully we'll get back on schedule here in the next week or two. And I guess we'll catch you all in the next episode.
Yeah, if we feel like it.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys,
peace
we'll see
out,
ya.
Everybody.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ink and Paint Club podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can catch a new episode every week. Also be sure to follow us on our Facebook and Twitter so you can keep up with the show. Links are in the description. We'll see you next week.